G'day and welcome to ReDriven. Now, it's funny, anytime we mention a Mazda RX-8 here on ReDriven, the comments section gets filled up by this like 50-50 split of people either going, the Mazda RX-8 is a piece of crap, it's more of a disease than it is a car, through to people going, oh my God, the Mazda RX-8, it's the greatest car to have ever rolled its wheels on planet Earth. Which got us thinking, like, which is it? Like, these were quite a groundbreaking car when they were new, but now that they're used, are they just breaking? Like, are they actually any good? Like, what do they cost to own and operate and maintain? What do they like to live with on a daily basis? But most importantly, should you buy one? Let's find out. Now guys, before we get deep into this video, I should mention that in this video, we're going to be focusing on the Australian variant of the RX-8. If you're not watching this from Australia, don't fret or panic or anything like that, because everything we're going to be going over, it should relate to RX-8s in your local market. Also, to keep this video as objective as we possibly could, we've reached out to multiple RX-8 owners groups, Mazda owners groups, Mazda technicians, specialist mechanics on rotaries. We've trawled through forums and surveys and reliability reports. So this video, it's the culmination of all of that information. Now, the RX-8 first landed here on Aussie shores back in 2003, and there was a midlife update called the Series 2 as of 2008. It was available in a few different trim variants and a couple of different special editions. But look, for more of an overview of the RX-8, here's me doing a voiceover. Just in case you've been living under a rock, the RX-8 is a rear-wheel drive and quite unique-looking four-door sports coupe, powered by a twin-rotor 1.3-litre rotary engine. It was initially available with a 6-speed manual or 4-speed automatic, while a 6-speed replaced the 4-speed from the RX-8's mid-cycle update in 2008. Speaking of that mid-cycle update, the Series 2 is far more than just an aesthetic change, featuring a more rigid body, engine modifications, that new transmission, the rear suspension was reconfigured to offer even better handling, a more rigid driveshaft was introduced, and obviously the styling was revised and updated. Now, there was actually another update prior to this in December of 2005, but it was mainly just a few aesthetic differences. In terms of trim levels, the RX-8 was initially offered from 2003 in a single trim level with the option of a leather pack, which added obviously leather seats, but also xenon headlights, a 9-speaker 300-watt Bose stereo system, and a few other extras. However, the Series 1 RX-8 was also available in a handful of limited edition models, such as the Luxury Special Edition, the Revelation Edition, and the 40th Anniversary Edition. In terms of the Series 2 RX-8, the range consisted of 3 distinct variants: an unnamed entry-level variant, the GT, and Luxury. And look, we'd love to go into every specific detail of every change and variant and all that sort of stuff. But if we did that, this video would end up going for hours. It would get pretty boring. So instead of doing that, we grabbed all of that information and we put it in our incredibly handy and totally free ReDriven cheat sheets. Our cheat sheets are invaluable as they provide a full breakdown of the car's model range, its common problems, what you need to look out for before handing over your hard-earned cash, how much of that cash you should be handing over, and so much more. Check it out at redriven.com or in the link below. Now, if you already own an RX-8 or you're some sort of an RX-8 expert and you've noticed in this video that we've missed something really major, please let us know in the comments. Obviously, we're going to do our best to cover as much as we possibly can, but yeah, if we've missed something big and let us know in the comments. Okay, so how's the exterior? From a design aspect, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Like, there are aspects I love. Like, I love these wheel arches and the rear pumped arches. I like the size of it and some of the proportions. But for me, it's kind of like mushrooms. I occasionally like mushrooms, like in a risotto or in an omelette, but then there are times I just don't want mushrooms in my life. I feel like it's the same with this. I don't know how to feel about it. Not sure. But what do you guys think? Do you like the look of the RX-8? Let us know in the comments. For the eagle-eyed of you out there, these are obviously not the standard factory rims. These are the gorgeous NK RPF ones. The RPF 1, is there a car that these don't look amazing on? Love those wheels. Now, here's a fun fact. This car was designed by the son of the guy that designed the original Series 1 Mazda RX-7. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce their names because I'll just murder them. The names, not the two guys, but here's their names down there. Okay, now in terms of what things to watch out for with the RX-8, look, this is a performance car. It's rear-wheel drive. It does like to be driven very enthusiastically. Unfortunately, some of the owners, they don't know how to control that level of enthusiasm, so it's critical to look for accident damage and sketchy repair work. So first up, make sure you get the car in good lighting or bring a torch, because you need to look if the paint matches between all the panels. Also, do the panel gaps match? On this particular car, as you can see here, the paint color doesn't match, and also the texture. That feels very different to that. It's the same on the back of the car as well. Next up, make sure everything is attached properly. Like as you can see here, there's a bit of interior wheel arch falling off there, and like some of the gaps around the front are a little bit dicey. This is a big one. Make sure you open and close everything that opens and closes. It should open and close easily. If it's like clunky or feels horrible, that's not a good sign. Next up, and this is a big one, you need to look for signs of spray paint overspray. Look up under the wheel arches, look into any of the air vents, make sure you pop the bonnet and look around the inside of the engine bay. If you see signs of spray paint overspray, it's been painted on the cheap. Okay, next up, wheels and tires. Let's start with the wheels. If the car is fitted with aftermarket wheels like this one, are the wheels quality items like these? Because if the owner's fitted some like cheap, nasty wheel or like a copy wheel, it shows that they're cutting corners financially. Where else are they cutting corners? And the same can be said for the tires. Like, look, this is a performance car. It's only going to be at its best on quality premium performance rubber. So if the owner has fitted like cheap, dodgy tires, or the tires don't match between front and back or left to right, not a good sign. Next up, also look at the wear pattern of the tire. It should be even across the whole tire. If it's really worn on the outside of the tire, that shows that the RX-8 likes going around corners really, really quickly, maybe a little too aggressively. If it's worn all over the place, it might be best case scenario, it just needs a wheel alignment, but worst case scenario, it might have some suspension damage. Okay, now the rear tires, if there's like hardly any tread left here, but there's loads of tread at the front, and you find bits of rubber build up under here, guess which RX-8 likes doing burnouts or drifting. Finally, on the wheels and tires, look for any signs of like gutter rash. Some light gutter rash, unfortunately, is to be expected with the age of the car, but if there are any big chunks out of the wheel or out of the tire, not a good sign. Finally, with the exterior, has it been fitted with an aftermarket body kit? Is that body kit a quality item, and has it been fitted professionally? This one is a factory fitted item. Good. Okay, so how's the interior? Well, unlike the exterior, it's a little bit more conventional in here, but I gotta say something. I know this is subjective, but for me, I cannot get comfortable in this seat. Number one, I feel like the seat is almost like maybe put on weight as it's gotten older, so it sort of like concaves rather than convexes, so you don't sit in it. I kind of feel like I'm sitting on a cushion all the time. Even the actual positioning, I've tried so many different adjustments here, but I cannot get comfortable in here. Steering wheel feels a bit too low, but it's in its highest position. Yeah, maybe it's just me, but I can't get comfortable. Now, as far as the materials used, look, yes, there's lots of red leather everywhere, and there's an okay amount of squidge, but wear and tear in this particular car is not fabulous. Like, this is super dirty here. Like, that might be able to be restored, but I can tell you what, this can't be restored. That needs like a whole new trim piece. Even the seat leather, like, yeah, again, it can be restored, but it has definitely seen better days. Stuff like this is all very loose and rattly, and that rattles around when you drive. We'll get to that when we're driving. But yeah, as far as wear and tear, yeah, interesting. The dash is cracking up here. All these black plastics, piano black plastics there, all scratching up pretty easily. Interesting. In saying that, like, all of the buttons, they all feel really nice to use. Even on the steering wheel, they feel good. Just overall wear and tear, I'm trying to avoid putting my arm on that because it just squeaks and makes so much noise. Yeah, it's pretty rough. Okay, in the back seat, I'm exactly 21.46 tuna and avocado sushis tall. This is in my driving position, and it's pretty bloody cramped back here. Like, I do fit, but I'm kind of relatively flexible, but I would not want to be back here for any more than about 7 minutes. Now, as far as wear and tear goes, because it's almost evil to force anyone to sit back here, there's not much wear and tear back here. The leather actually feels quite nice. Like, all the door cards here feel really good. It feels good back here. Even the backs of the seats, they're not scratched up too badly, because no one in their right mind would ever sit back here. So how's the tech? Well, look, obviously with the age of the RX-8, this thing misses out on any modern phone connectivity like Apple CarPlay or Android Auto or any of that sort of stuff. Also, the levels of tech, it's going to vary if it's a Series 1 or a Series 2 car or even the options fitted. But for an overview of what tech you can expect, here's me doing another voiceover. Series 1 base spec RX-8s will feature a 6-speaker stereo, tilt-adjustable steering column, a 6-disc CD stacker, leather gear knob and steering wheel mounted controls, and sport-style bucket seats. However, higher, more recent specs and optional extras can include an upgraded Bose sound system with MP3 compatibility and an auxiliary input, Bilstein dampers, Recaro front seats, reverse parking sensors, front fog lights, a urethane-filled front suspension crossmember, and leather-wrapped handbrake and aluminium pedals and footrest. For all of the specific details of which RX-8 gets what levels of technology and equipment, just jump on ReDriven.com and check out that cheat sheet, or click on the link in the description below. Okay, so is it practical? Well, in the boot, considering I can actually kind of fit in here, the boot's not too bad. Okay, practicality in terms of actually getting into the back seat, it's quite the adventure. Open this, and then, wish me luck. Ow. And practicality in the back seat, you have two cup holders here. You've got a little bit of a storage unit here for parts of your RX-8 that have just fallen off, which is pretty cool. You've got a really funky little, tiny little window opening there. This opens into the boot, and this whole thing comes away, and you've got like storage in here as well, so you can put, you know, your skis or a very small snowboard back there. So practicality in the back seat for what this thing is. Oh, you've also got a pocket for your ReDriven RX-8 script just there. Practicality in the back seat, pretty good for what the car is. But in saying that, for me to actually get out, I can't get out unless somebody opens the front door, because of the way the doors work. Obviously it's a safety thing, but it certainly doesn't help you if you're a little bit claustrophobic. And practicality in the front area, you have a pretty decent sized glove box there. You've got a little slidey panel here with cup holders there, plus this whole thing kind of flips open, so you've got more storage back there. I've got a horrible feeling that this is an ashtray. Disgusting. You've got door pockets here, but they're quite small, and you've got a funky little spot for your coins just up here. Oh, and a spot for your sunglasses up there. Apologies for the interruption in the video, guys, but as a bit of a celebration for the RX-8, we've decided to do a very limited run of ReDriven RX-8 t-shirts. So you can have this one, or you could have this one, or you could have both. Just jump on ReDriven.com and follow the links to our merch store. Okay, so what goes wrong with these things? Well, look, our resident mechanic Jim will be taking us through the mechanical stuff in a second, but let's start with the exterior. Okay, so first up, there are quite a few reports that the paint can fade. However, in saying that, cars that have been garaged and cared for regularly don't seem to have that problem. But that can kind of be said for any car. Speaking of lights, the headlights, like many cars of this age, can yellow and fade and get milky like that, but yeah, it's not too hard to fix. RX-8's fitted with a sunroof. This one doesn't have a sunroof. That sunroof can become rattly. It's just the bolts become loose over time and need tightening up. Series 1 cars are known for having condensation build up in the taillights because there's a gasket in there and it kind of fails. Series 2 cars will possibly do it as well, nowhere near as much as the Series 1 cars, but again, it's not too hard to fix or just replace with aftermarket lights. Okay, problems inside. First up, the fuel gauge in the Series 1 cars, it can read that it's a quarter full, but it's actually empty. The left front bolt on the driver's seat can become loose. A lot of people feel like it's a rattle coming from the steering column, but it's not, it's the seat. It's just the washer under the bolt. It's pretty easily fixed. Now, gear knobs on certain models will illuminate, but they won't illuminate because that fails just due to deterioration. Deterioration. Can't say that word. Mazda have fixed it in updates, but then you've got issues like there are reports that the door cards can kind of get a bit leaky and, you know, leak water into the cabin. The dash can crack like it has here, and also, as we've seen, this center console can get very, very rattly. Now, before we get into mechanically what can go wrong with these things, and that's going to be interesting, can I ask a favor? Can you please hit the like, subscribe and bell icon buttons if you're enjoying this video, and share ReDriven as much as you can, because the more you do of that and the more you share ReDriven, the more of these videos we can make, and hopefully that's a good thing. Okay, so mechanically what can go wrong with the Mazda RX-8? Well, look, I'd love to tell you, but I'm not a qualified mechanic, so I can't tell you. But get comfy because Jim is about to tell you.
To start with, I'm just going to put it out there that I actually love rotary engines. I love the way they sound and they're capable of huge horsepower. In a race car, they're great. In a daily driven road car, not so great. The normally aspirated Renesis engine in the RX-8, and a fun fact, Renesis is an acronym that stands for Rotary Engine Exhaust Side Inlet Side, which basically is describing the port position within the engine. Anyway, that engine in a daily driven road car is actually a bit of a ticking time bomb. They have a well-deserved bad reputation for being extremely unreliable. and in some cases not even lasting 150,000 Ks without some sort of catastrophic apex seal failure. And in some cases, if they've been flogged or poorly maintained, not even 100,000 Ks. Now, if you compare that to pretty much any piston engine in any car, on any performance level, that's actually pretty bad. They're plagued with reliability issues with everything bolted to the outside of the engine too. And you're probably nearly always going to have a check engine light on for one reason or another. Complications with the oil injection system, the fuel injection system, ignition coil problems, and then subsequent catalytic converter meltdowns. The drivelines are pretty fragile too, with plenty of complications from the clutch, the transmission, and the differentials, and especially if they've been flogged or poorly maintained, which actually seems to be most of them. My advice is, if for some reason you must have one, be prepared to be either working on it very frequently or paying someone else to work on it frequently, because they're very high maintenance and they're very fragile.
Now, we should also mention that there have been quite a few factory recalls for the RX-8, so if you are in the market for one, make sure that those recalls have been seen to. Now, as you can see, I'm in a completely different car. It's because I stuffed up and totally forgot to record the safety part when we were actually filming the RX-8. But how safe is the RX-8? Well, the only official crash test that it ever did, it received a 4-star result, but it is also a rear-wheel drive performance car, so they're inherently kind of unsafe depending on how you drive it. But for what safety features you can expect, here's me doing another voiceover, but this time I'm going to whisper it as loudly as I can.
The RX-8 will feature 6 airbags, ABS, electronic brake force distribution, electronic stability control, traction control, and front seat belts with pre-tensioners and load limiters.
Let's do some negatives first. I don't know if you can hear that. Yes, it probably is only this car, but that squeak is infuriating. Also, I know I said it before, but this driving position, I've been driving this for a little while now, and I cannot get comfortable, and I feel like it's kind of ruining the overall experience for me. But the throttle response in this thing, like how quickly the engine just spools up, and the sound of it especially when you're revving it out to that 9,000 RPM red line, oh my God, that's intoxicating. This rotary engine, it suffers from that typical rotary thing, which is just a lack of torque. Because of the lack of torque, you have to work hard at the car to get the best out of it, but like that's no bad thing, because this is a sports car, it's not like a family cruiser. But if you do need to accelerate quickly or like overtake on the freeway, you find yourself having to hunt for gears just to get it up into the rev range to actually get going anywhere. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because the gear shift is a delight to use. I just crunched that one. Even the suspension, after all of these years, it's still really compliant, and it feels like it sucks you in, like you start wanting to go hunting for corners. And also, because that tiny little engine is sitting behind the front axle line, it's technically like a front mid-engine car, and that gives near perfect chassis balance. So going through some corners like this, that is delightful. Also, because there's so much steering feel, and this thing's got like, a decent amount of grip, it just gives you confidence all the time. So you start finding yourself wanting to push harder and harder, but the car's always got your back. You know what, like it takes a really special car to feel special at any speed. Like this does definitely give more the faster you go, but even around town at normal speeds, it still feels involving and engaging. It's a sign of a really good car. Like, do all of the usual used car checks, but turn the stereo off and really use your ears. Listen for any weird mechanical sounds, any grinding, any clunking. Does the engine pull smoothly and cleanly? Do the brakes pull, do they stop you smoothly and cleanly? When you brake or accelerate, does it pull to one side or the other? Are there any weird noises coming from the suspension? How about the gearbox? Does it change gear easily? Are there any crunches between gears at all? If it doesn't feel right, if it feels and sounds mechanically bad, don't buy that car. Look, overall, this particular RX-8, let's be honest, it has seen better days. There are a few little niggling issues here and there, but in saying that, you can see that a mint condition example one of these would be absolutely sublime to drive. But in this car, there is this thought, and it's just about here, it's just sort of above and behind my head, that around this next corner up here, there's going to be some catastrophic mechanical failure that's going to cost thousands to repair, and that does dilute the experience somewhat. Pricing here in Australia currently kicks off from around about $10,000, but I tell you what, a $10,000 Mazda RX-8 is going to cost you way more than $10,000. At the high end of the spectrum, really mint condition examples, they're asking currently around about 40,000 Aussie dollars. Something like this, a 2003 Series 1 in interesting condition with over 180,000 Ks on it, but loaded with optional extras, you're going to be looking a bit under 20 grand. And for pricing internationally, here's a graphic. Mazda claim a fuel consumption figure of anywhere from 12.1 to 12.9 litres per 100 Ks, depending on if it's a Series 1 or a Series 2, automatic or manual, stuff like that. This particular car is claimed at 12.6 litres per 100 Ks, but we found through our research that most RX-8 owners are finding they're getting figures of anywhere from 15 to 18 litres per 100 Ks. Servicing is recommended at every 6 months or 10,000 Ks, and it is absolutely critical that the RX-8 sticks to that service schedule. If anything, a lot of the technicians and mechanics we spoke to, they recommend doing it at least every 5,000 Ks. We should also mention too that these drink way more oil than like any kind of normal piston-engined car. It's just one of the idiosyncrasies of rotary engines. They need oil to stay alive. Mazda offered a 3-year unlimited kilometre warranty on all RX-8s, which unfortunately means none of these have any factory support left on them anymore. And look, I know I mentioned this before, but I can't emphasise it enough. If you're buying one of these or you own one of these, join an owners group. I can't believe how awesome the owners groups have been with the research of this video. Owners groups, thank you so much. You guys are legends. Okay, so should you buy one? Look, that depends far more on the specific example of RX-8 you're looking at rather than the RX-8 as a whole.
See, the RX-8 in general offers a very tempting set of skills. To paraphrase motoring journalist god Jeremy Clarkson, you get all of the benefits of a sports car with none of the drawbacks, and all of the practicality of a sedan with none of the tedium.
Plus, because these things have depreciated on the used car market, they offer so much car for the money. But there's a problem.
For an RX-8 to be reliable and offer genuine longevity, it requires almost obsessive levels of attention when it comes to maintenance and upkeep, and it has generally required this immense amount of tender loving care from the moment that it left the dealership when new. Unfortunately, many owners have failed to provide such care and attention, and the result is, uncared for examples of these, they have a habit of going boom, and boom can equate to a very expensive repair bill.
Okay, so should you buy one? Look, only if the person selling it to you can categorically prove that it has been maintained to the absolute highest degree. Otherwise, you're not buying an RX-8, you're just buying a ticking time bomb. Guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, what did you think of the RX-8? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, can you please hit those like, subscribe, and bell buttons and share ReDriven as much as you can if you're enjoying our content. The more you do of all that, the more of these videos we can make. See you next time. What do they cost to own and operate and maintain? What do they like to do? Jesus. Focusing on the Australian variant of the RX-8, and the bus goes past and ruins the take. Here we go. But loads of tread on the front tyres, and you find bits of rubber up under here. Good. Next bit. Objective as we possibly could. We've reached out to buses going past, ruining the take. There is a bus depot just down there. Make sure you get the car in really good lighting, or even bring a torch if it's later or early in the. I want to punch something. There we go. Has had those recalls. What am I trying to say, Sam? Completed. It's the word. Here we go. Are in the market for one. Make sure all of the. Look, that depends far more on. That was my brain slowed down. Here we go.